full introduction on who's representing the,
Vermont Dairy Producers Alliance.
okay, and just to be clear, we got a letter from the Alliance today, and that's not, we're not talking about the letter, we're talking about,
The letter was on 126.
we're talking about right to repair.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
and I keep getting it confused with right to farm,
Yes, yeah, I made that.
different positions too. So thank you. My name is Heather Scholdeis with William Scholdeis and Associates, and I'm here today on behalf of the Vermont Dairy Producers Alliance. We have been watching testimony, and it took a little bit of time for the VDPA board, because they're all out doing other things, to come to a position on this bill. And I talked to the executive director just after lunch and said that I would find the chair and go on record for them. My understanding is the committee had been looking for a farmer that has bought one of these diagnostic kits, and how did it work? If we can find somebody by tomorrow, we will, but we just don't have anybody today. But the one message we really want to bring home is that these equipment companies are our industry partners. We try and work with them to solve all kinds of problems, particularly during crop season. And what we would really prefer is for you all to let the MOU take its course, see how it works, and then come back. The MOU was, and I don't even have all the background on it, but the MOU was something that came to be, and it took a lot of time, and it took a lot for people to come to the table and agree. And I think that if our position was to move forward with a bill, we kind of feel like we're going against that agreement. So we would respectfully ask that you just give the MOU a chance.
Thank you for that. And committee, while we are still here, questions? Representative Levitt.
Is the MOU only with John Deere?
No, there is 2 MOUs, and one is with John Deere. The other one is with New Holland, and I don't have them right in front of me. Yep.
And do you know what percentage of dairy farmers use those
I don't.
manufacturers? Okay.
I don't.
A lot.
I mean, that's what I would think, but I
Yeah.
don't know.
Representative O'Brien.
So one thing that came up today was that from US Farm Bureau, I guess farmers are pushing for this, mostly in the Midwest.
Yeah.
And then we also heard that only if you buy this diagnostic kit, you essentially have access to fix 98% of your problems. And the two areas where it doesn't presently cover are emissions and safety. So who could speak to us about farmers came to, want to access those other 2% fixes?
Well, that's specifically why I was trying to find somebody that actually had bought one of these, because I think it'd give you much better background on it. And I haven't been able to find anybody, and Amanda St. Pierre hasn't been able to find anybody. So we'll continue to do that. And even if it's something in writing tomorrow, we'll try and do that. I just don't have a lot of context beyond that.
Any other questions? All right, well, thank you very much for coming in.
Yep. Now you can have ice cream.
It's still rock hard.
Probably not.
Or someone's got a jackhammer made by John Deere, wouldn't bring it.
Oh, yeah. Motivations.
Just before we break, does anybody have any thoughts now? And we can come back after we break and continue the conversation. Yeah, Henry.
I just wanted to request that I'm trying to just understand some of the legal, from some of the testimony this morning.
Yeah.
I just want to understand, and maybe there's somebody in this committee that can help me work through that, or if we can have David or Mike or somebody come in and just help me work through some of the language.
David's not available today or tomorrow, or I think maybe if you were, I don't know whether to have you reach out to Jen Carby but see whether there's somebody else who possibly could come in on, short notice this afternoon. It may be tough.
Okay.
But if you could explain the situation that here we are and.
Respectfully, I think we all got a little and maybe I'm just speaking for myself. I'll speak for myself. I found the legal thing at the end of the day to be really hard to focus on.
Yesterday.
Yes. And if we could put him or whomever a little earlier in the day, I think that would work better, at least for my brain, because I was having a hard time following some of his larger tangents rather than just sort of going through the bill.
We got, Laura sent an email to the committee this afternoon with some statements from witnesses who we had earlier in the day yesterday who were commenting on the legal comments that David Hall presented. So take a look at that. I'm not sure that it's what you're talking about, Henry, or?
Yeah, I did look at that. I'll try to look at it again. But mine was more a question that arose from the testimony from the lawyer that was advocating against the bill, and just it specifically was about parts, and I'm just looking over the language that he was talking about, and I'm just not smart enough to understand what it actually means. There's the part that is in the definitions, but is not in the requirements, and I'm just trying to understand how law works.
Right. Jen.
This is a question for you. You asked, does anyone have any questions, but you didn't ask if anyone has any comments.
Right now.
Is a comment appropriate now?
Comments are very appropriate now, yes.
And here's what I'm grappling with, and I'm going to be as honest as I can. I am torn between clan loyalty, and by that I mean I want consensus in this group as much as is attainable. But I need to weigh in that I haven't had, despite the terror of owning stuff that does a blank screen, and it's put me out of business more than once in my life. But I have found that dealers, as lobbyist Schuldeis implied, that there is a partnership. Nobody wants to see a logger go out of business or a farmer go out of business. And I have had service people from Bangor to Vermont, New Hampshire call me, send me schematics or send me stuff at no cost or charge to try to get me through a problem. And so that notion that there is a partnership, whether you're a small farm, medium farm, or large farm, that they're not all the devil just because they're a big business or even a profitable business. And businesses in my lifetime that I thought, now, these are successful equipment dealers. They go out of business all the time, fail. So is Champlain business equipment a small business? Probably not. They've got a lot of, dealerships around the state. But I don't want to throw acid in their face by being so hostile that. So I'm a dilemma.
Yeah.
That's my comment also.
No, thank you. A very useful comment.
I want to respond to that. Champlain has treated me very well. They practically gave me my tractor, and then thinking, okay, they're going to get me down the line, right, when I have to service this thing. And they've been really nice with me there too. I mean, I don't know how these people make money, frankly, but at the same time they do. They're a business. It's not a partnership. We are the customer. Or at least I recognize myself as one, right? So,
No, we're not partners.
no, I mean, but that's the way they're presenting it, and they're also presenting it like, it's very frustrating because, they're presenting it like, well, we're already doing this great thing. Well, they're doing this thing because they've been doing the wrong thing and people have been responding to that. Like they have been monopolizing the service and they shouldn't be. And this is a move away from that. And they're already making that move, but it shouldn't be on their terms. I don't think it should be on our terms. I mean, that's, because they've been violating.
I'm not saying.
Rodney.
So I don't see how you can say they're monopolizing this. I mean, I bought a new tractor in 2013. There's a lot of electronics on it, computer. And at that time, I could have bought the software to repair it myself. So it's not like they've been holding us back. I mean, they offered me to buy it, and so they didn't have to come out and check it out, but I didn't have the money at the time, so I didn't do it, but.
Well, what kind of tractor was it? I'm a little confused because I know that with my own tractor, that when it broke down, if it was an integral part in the engine and I had changed that part, the tractor would have shut down and I would have had to call Champlain to come out and restart my tractor, right? And they would be paid for that. So, I mean, that's what I mean by, yeah.
Said you had a Kubota
I do, yeah.
and Ford before that.
Mm-hmm.
Blue.
Love it. Mike.
I just kind of wanted to remind ourselves in the conversation that there is a difference between the equipment dealers and the manufacturers, and I know they're aligned on this, but
Yeah.
just as we start talking about them and what the bill does to them, and who the equipment dealers that we're talking about that you talk about as customers or partners are not actually who are addressed in the bill, and are not who you were describing, I think, as having been doing the wrong thing and are now making this adjustment. They're not the ones signing the MOUs, it's the manufacturers. And
Right.
I think you're right that the MOUs are a response to the fact that legislation like this is at some stage of the process in more than half of the countries, in more than half of the states in the country. That there's a reason for that, I think. And there's a reason why they're now engaging in MOUs and why they prefer MOUs over legislation. And I think we should just try to sort of like come to an honest understanding of the reasons for those things. And perhaps a more balanced understanding than the one that was presented to us this morning.
So then why would they prefer the MOU to legislation? I mean, what's the essence?
Break an MOU.
Right.
Right.
My explanation for that would be because legislation is law and MOU is
Their choice.
we've been, the folks advocating on the other side have described it as a pinky promise. The Farm Bureau was offended by that description. Perhaps it's somewhere in between, but it's certainly not binding like law is, right?
Right. Yeah.
And I think we heard today that the MOU doesn't cover parts and that the bill includes parts. So that seemed to be something they were focused on.
I just got one more comment.
Yeah.
As a farmer, this bill will hurt the farming industry.
The industry.
Can you elaborate,
Farming
Rodney?
industry, farmers, dealers, maybe not so much manufacturing. I truly believe that if you do this bill, that will make things harder on farms.
I sort of see your point. I also, and there's a part of me that feels a little bit like we're rushing this. And it seems like a lot of us need more time to sort of go through the bill. And I feel like we're trying to race to this deadline of tomorrow. And I'm not sure. I mean, the bill's been on the wall a while. It was the first bill we got, and we're dealing with it just this week. And it just feels compressed and rushed to me, and I'm not, it's more complicated than we think it is. At first blush, you're like, oh, right to repair, it seems simple. And then the more you dig into it, you hear Rodney's point, you know, you've got a great relationship with your dealer. You're not understanding the bill the same way I'm not understanding the bill. I just feel like there's a lot of complexity to this that we're not having time to fully digest.
I would just respond to that I think every committee in the building is rushing things right, you know, is working to get things to a deadline. It's the nature of a deadline.
Right.
And there is another body that
True.
that will then take this up if they so choose, take all their own testimony,
Right.
make all of their own decisions, you know, and so it's not,
Condition.
this is not like
Right.
we say yes in this room and it's the law tomorrow.
True. No, I know that. I don't know. This wouldn't have been the one I would have picked maybe is what I'm trying to say too. But, and we have heard, and I'll watch the testimony from this morning because that I haven't heard yet. So,
Yeah, and to be sure, it was late yesterday. It was late in the day. It was late in the process. I mean, even given that the process started, typically we would have that walkthrough. And, you know, so that further, it made it challenging.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I take Mike's point to heart. You know, whatever we do with it, it has to go to the Senate anyway, and they're going to make changes and they'll have more time with it, theoretically.
Have you been able to connect with any? Okay. So, what are people's schedules? Anybody need to leave before 4 today?
I'd like to leave by 4:30 ideally, but I can go over.
That shouldn't be
Okay.
an issue, yeah. Why don't we take a little break, come back in 10 or 15 minutes? And we'll see if there's any other thoughts on this, if we happen to get somebody who can come in from Ledge Council office to answer some of the questions, great. If not, we will spend a little time just talking about next week's schedule and what legislation we might want to look at.